Hi there. I hope you're well. I'm Hiramoni, and welcome to Get Set Global. About today's guest, he is celebrated for lending his voice to songs in Bollywood films like Dev D, Munna Bhai MBBS, Zindagi Milegi Na Dobara, and more. His recent work as a music composer for the film Laila Majnu has been Majnu actually has been critically acclaimed too. And outside that, he has Another World, his independent music. His songs find stories that needs to be told, songs that look for alternative perspective, music that needs to be celebrated. But the beauty is that he has mastered the art of telling different, very difficult stories in contemporary vibe. He is an advocate for a world that is led by kindness, not just for humans, but for every living being that form our ecosystem. Casually radiant, deep, and soulful. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome the singer, the composer, Joi Barua.
অসমীয়া ভাষা আৰু জাতিৰ ভেদ কামৰূপ কামতাপুৰ ইতিহাসে কৈ যায় নৰনাৰায়ণে বীৰ চিলাৰায়ে বান্ধিলে এই মুলুক খিয়াতি ৰৈ যায় গুৰুজনা আদৰিলে গোহাঁই কমল গঢ়ি দিলে
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Hi, it's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, it's a great pleasure and really, really looking forward to this rendezvous.
Thank you. And thank you for having me over on this beautiful platform of Sentinel. And, I want to thank the Sentinel family. I will thank you.
All right, lovely. Great. So I wanted to start by asking, we have been going through disruptive times. It's a time of distress, so many concerns around people's lives and people's health, livelihood. We can't make plans for the future, but at the same time, we are making more daily plans than ever, probably, having to maneuver through ever-changing protocols and regulations. And of course, the music industry has been hit hard by the pandemic as well. So while all of that is going on in the backdrop, how are you? Are you keeping sane? Are you coping fine? What's going on?
I think I'm trying to keep sane, and these are times of transition. You don't know what the future brings. You don't know what tomorrow brings. So we're trying to cope, and we're trying to realign with the new truths that are emerging, with new things that we're going to learn. And I think we are having to build new systems of hope and faith. And these are not easy things to get on by. Very difficult times, especially living in the metros of India and knowing what Mumbai, I'm in Mumbai right now, knowing what Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore is going through right now. There are different stories of people going through a different kind of chaos, difficulty. So I would say we are trying to tide through. I hope all of us sail through this. It's going to get a little tough before it's going to get easy again. It's got very tough. It's an understatement. But I hope it's going to get better.
Mhm.
I wish this hadn't happened. I wish, but it has, and it is knocking at a lot of our doorsteps. It is already here where I am. I
Right.
wish, I wish we emerge healthier. I hope we emerge live. I hope we come out wiser.
Yeah, yeah, no, well said. I mean, like you said, I think health and livelihood and all of that is such big concern, and especially because medical system is unable to cope and all of that.
Yeah,
But like you said, I also feel I think COVID is a conscious virus. I know we are all being welcomed to be more conscious, more responsible, more accountable, I suppose, to each other as well, towards
exactly.
ourselves and others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but some good things has happened to you in the last couple of months. And one of that is, of course, your new song. I think Puriti Bhangi was out in December. So we'll talk about that. I felt that's a powerful song. It's inspirational as well. And it's done really well with great care. And the other one is the animation film with which you have been involved with the musical side. Because that has won the Best Soundtrack Award, I think, at the Cannes World Film Festival. So lots to celebrate in terms of your music side, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to start with your musical journey. Your dad gifted you a violin when you were young. And then, of course, singing happened, and we know you as the singer, the composer. But do you play the violin? Do you still enjoy playing the violin?
It's a That's the trick question. I probably haven't been playing the violin as much as I'm supposed to be, or as I should
Mhm.
have. Other things have taken priority over very basic and original interests. No, I have not been playing the violin as much as I should have. I feel guilt about it, but I have kept it in good condition. I go back to it once in a while, but not as much as I should have. But I think this is a good reminder that I need to get on to my job on the violin again. Yeah.
Well, maybe next time we have this session, we talk about violin and playing violin. But yeah, I was thinking that's quite a instrument to start with because I think violin doesn't have the notes; they are not marked, are they? So you have to assume first, then you have to practice enough to get the notes right. So in that sense, it's such a tough instrument to start with. So I suppose that must have taught you things like to be persistent and things like that. Um, Now, after that, obviously, singing became your prime thing, and people appreciated your voice. You went to Mumbai, and Bollywood happened. Independent music kick-started. If someone asks you, what music has given you, like how it nourishes you, how it uplifts you, how it floats your boat, how do you sum it up, all that?
I think music has meant everything to me. You know,
Mm.
I don't think I can take out music of my life and and then I would have anything else to kind of speak about it or show for it. That is what music is to me, or music has meant to be. And I think it's been a lifelong relationship of love with music, and that is the reason sometimes probably I've been accused of not being doing too much with it. It's something I love too much, and it's something I really respect, and it's something I which is like a spiritual core for me. It's like something you love. It's like somebody you love. So I think it has remained at the core of what I do and what I think and how I think ahead. So it's still a very sacred space. It's a very private space. I'm glad, and I've been lucky to to bring it outside, to have people listen to it and appreciate it and make a living out of it. I never really wanted more out of music. I've been lucky to get on by with so much, and it stays that way.
Mm. All right. Really, I think nicely said. I mean, to me, what it comes across as music is everything. I mean, it's a way of life for you, I probably think, and it aids also to, this is what I'm guessing, but this is what you're trying to say as well, that it aids to connect to inner self and sometimes
That's right.
connect with the world as well. Yeah. So, yeah, that's beautiful. Now, here is the thing, I have heard other musicians saying this, that for musicians, music is almost like, it takes away their instinct of fear, repulsion towards anything unknown. Have you experienced that for yourself?
I think I think
Mm.
it acts as a I think it acts as a I don't know if it's the word. If the word would be a balm towards a lot of experiences, which could have turned out otherwise. But music does help you in understanding and experiencing a lot of things which would have been very strange to you otherwise. Music does help you in lessening tensions, I guess, in knowing things, people, circumstances, stories. It's so many things. It's a bridge. It's a catalyst. It could be another element. So I just think music is such an amazing means to understanding the world, to understanding things, problems, situations, minds, you know. and and the very very most beautiful thing about music is that everything can be expressed through music in what you and as an artist, and you can express yourself, and you can also kind of have a hold on a lot of other minds which you want to influence in terms of thinking. So uh, the purpose of music can be manifold. It really depends on what the time and situation and the day is.
Yeah, yeah, so true. And I was also thinking when you were saying this, I mean, that's probably not just for music, but any form of art. When you start with absolutely nothing, right? So you are in this process of working with unknown. So in that sense, you're practicing unknown on a daily basis. And I think that makes it take away that fear of not knowing. And I guess that's what the musicians talk about as well, what you said too. Uh, but has music always been your plan A, or did it just evolve and happened?
I don't think music was ever my plan. Uh, I really didn't know what to do with it because it was something I loved too much, and I grew up with Assamese music, and I grew up with international music, the least of which was Bollywood. So I had no plan. I knew that I probably wanted to be a musician, but I had no plan how in this country. And but it was the only thing I loved. It was the only thing I could do. Hence, I did pursue it with a certain kind of zeal and a certain kind of passion. But I didn't know if I had to take it up for a livelihood. I grew up very, very confused. And it was only when beyond my graduation, when I started failing, I thought maybe music is what it is for me. Maybe it was the promised land. And I guess I was proven true. There was no plan A, there was no plan B. It was pretty confusing. On the one hand, I was pretty much okay with academics, but my heart was somewhere else. I really had, and there is where the dichotomy lied. Do I listen to what my heart says, and which also I'm good at, or do I go and pursue academics? And academics is important. I think we should not say I don't think we'll ever get to the conversation where we say okay, you chuck your studies. It's not that way. There's a certain value imprint of what academics can bring to you. Having said that, and I have that clarity now. Having said that, growing up wasn't easy when music was an inherent gift, and it was pretty tough. I didn't have a plan A. I didn't have a plan B. but I think I got lucky in life, and I loved something well and well enough for it to give me back.
Well, I mean, when you're saying all of this, I have got more questions to ask. When you said, you actually came to it because for the love of it. So I'll have more questions on that, but I'll come to that. But it sounded like probably, this clarity came later on because you said you were confused. I think growing up is surely hard for most of the people, but your heart always lied there. That's something you knew. So, like I said, I'll have more questions on that. But let's talk about some of the phenomenal work that you have been doing here in the UK, in London. You have been involved with the musical part for an animation film, and the music has been recorded here at the very iconic Abbey Studio in London. And also, the track has won the Best Soundtrack Award at the Cannes World Film Festival. So obviously, feel free to talk a bit more about the project. But what I'm interested to really know is what's been the most fulfilling thing about getting involved in this project, and also what's been the most difficult part.
I don't think there was anything that was as difficult, you know. I think this was a natural progression of things, of where I started and where it was going. But obviously, to incorporate brilliant scientific ideas and the ideas of tomorrow into music has its challenges. How do you? There has to be a correlation in terms of what the story is and what the song is. So to marry scientific ideas into music did have its challenges. But I guess the best part also, which kind of, you see, the point is, I'm an untrained musician. We never managed to learn what we are doing, and life was different. But to have 130 people, very accomplished musicians, to play for you, and the London Symphony Orchestra is, I think it's the oldest in England.
True.
And it is behind massive soundtracks like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and these are the same guys who have played on those enormous movies. And to have them play your music, to know that something that I'm creating here in this space, is getting played by 100 different people, getting recorded, and at Abbey Road, where our favorite musicians like Pink Floyd, Beatles, had recorded their best music.
True.
I think that was initially. I think that was a little overwhelming, though it was never that. I never expected to go there, or I never expected. Like I said, it's something I love. I don't have expectations. But when you're working in the same hallowed portals as where your gods are coming from, I think it does take a little time for that to sink in. And when it sinks in, it does hit you in a very different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, I expected you to say that because, I think, like you said, the London Symphony of Orchestra, that's obviously the oldest, but that's actually top 5 orchestras in the world. So you worked with some of the best musicians of the world. And also Abbey Studio, that's the most famous recording studio as well in the world. And like you have said, the Beatles, for them, it was a home. Most of their recordings have been done at Abbey. It's like a pilgrimage for music lovers, I suppose. So I totally get what you are saying. I have got a very quick video of what you have produced so far. Is that okay for you, for me to play? Yeah, let's play it. Let's say. how wonderful that was. Do you want to say a little bit about this whole making of this? Is there any story behind it that it reminds of? Like,
I think I will. Can I just have a second? There's an important thing coming. Just give me a second, please. Yeah.
sure. While we're waiting for Joy, why don't you listen to the song once more? Let's play that once more for all of you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is it
So
all okay?
yeah. So I think the people you're seeing there are the pianist Ted Joselson, who has been very prominent on the New York circuit, and Arthur Fagan, the conductor, who come all the way to Abbey Road from the US. He's a very prominent conductor on the US circuit, and
Right.
they're playing the title track Alan. So Alan's a story about inanimates coming to life, and conceived and by Dr. Susan Lim from Singapore. She'd done the first robotic surgery in Asia, and is a visionary, and who had conceived of artificial life and inanimates coming to life. So this is a whole story of how inanimates will come to life in the future,
Sure.
borrowed on personal experiences.
Wow.
And she had kind of she had taken a few incidents from her life and turned it around into the story of what this would be, you know. And we were asked to kind of tell this story in a musical way. And so these are steps on where the story has progressed so far.
Lovely. And is there a time when this will be released, or is it too early to talk about it?
The symphony has just been launched in London. Like, it has just released, so it's online right now. All the whole symphony has been launched, and
All right.
what we are working for is actually a Broadway musical, to be set in Broadway. So that is taking, it's just being the music. We are finishing the music, and that will get onto Broadway next. So we're just finding the route.
Well, fantastic. Good luck with all of that and its
Yeah.
journey as well.
Yeah.
Now, digressing from music for a bit, you have been vocal about a series of environmental upheaval that Assam has gone through recently, and has been going through, about months of fire at the Bagjan refinery, oil refinery, coal mining next to Dihing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary. So you ran a series of campaigns. You brought experts to talk about it. You became a voice for the campaigners and people on ground. What did you go through deeply?
I think, though it might have looked as a campaign, I think it was a cry for awareness. It was,
Do you know what? I mean, sorry for that. I mean,
yeah,
the word
yeah.
maybe I have used just for ease, but yeah, it doesn't have to be called a campaign. It's just
No,
a
no, I
word.
get it. No, no.
Yeah.
It's and it has been perceived as a campaign for the right reasons. I don't think that's wrong, but what we wanted was basically what I wanted was for the people of Assam to wake up to what we have, all the gifts that we've been endowed with, everything that we have been blessed with. You know, uh, the our culture, our indigenous learning, our natural heritage, all that becomes the identity of the Assamese, and you destroy one aspect of it, and we come out poorer. This is where I started. This was never a campaign against a company that was indulging in drilling. It was never about that. It just went on to those issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, Issues which pertaining to drilling and other stuff. My job was to wake up my fellow brothers and tell them that this is your land. Start caring. Wake up. This is what it led to, and these were pretty serious conversations. And I realized in the times of the first pandemic last year that probably people had time, but it was very tough on a lot of people to just listen to this. But it was also the time to have this conversation. Though times were hard, people around the world were going through very unforeseen times and very different challenges. I thought this is not going to be an easy conversation. I was not singing about it. I was not making songs. I was not saying the right things. But somebody had to get on with the tough conversation. And I realized that had to be, I couldn't push that responsibility to somebody else. That would not be right. I don't believe in that whole thing that somebody should do it. So did I know anything about it? Not too much. Did I think I could do anything about it? I don't. But it certainly made me want to talk and spend time with this problem and spend time with this malaise of what runs through our minds, our society. And I realized if we let this go, there's a lot of other things that we would let go. So somebody had to step in and do the right job and get it done. And I didn't want to be in a position where I would tell myself that what did I do or not do, or where somebody else would ask me like 5 years down the line, did you do anything about it? And I would have nothing to say about it. So it started off as a thankless conversation. It was not easy. I knew it would be thankless. I was not expecting the whole world to be. These are tough conversations in tough times, and people aren't used to it, and I would not blame them. But I found people who were aligned to me on the idea of where things need to go or what things need to be. And that is where things pushed themselves, where the conversation pushed itself. And that gave me real steam. Would I have done without it? I would have. I would have still gone ahead. But then you realize there are a lot of people in the world who are aligned with you. They need a voice, or they need a table to come to and speak at. So the learning was, probably you wake up, you do the right thing. That is the learning. Don't wait for everybody else in the world to come and make a difference. You come, you wake up. You wake up and turn this day around. You wake up and make this a bright morning. You come and make this a bright day. You have to lead by example, right? And though this wasn't much about leading, but I think I brought brilliant minds into the conversation of conservation, of what things needed to be, and if they were off the mark. I brought very knowledgeable people into the forum. I brought lawyers, I brought environmentalists, I brought teachers, educators, students, musicians, artists, the next gen. And that gave me tremendous satisfaction that, probably I'm not alone in this thing. There are a lot of people who are willing to listen to the tough talk, who are willing to talk the tough talk, and that's important.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful what you have said. And I think when you said that you don't know everything, but you created a platform so that you can bring the experts to talk about it. And I think I shouldn't be using the word campaign, but it's more about awareness talk in that sense. But I feel probably, and please feel free to say that I'm wrong, but it probably is also about creating and bringing attention about different aspects, right? Because the National Board of Wildlife, they recommended coal mining. I'm talking about Dihing Patkai. Next to Dihing Patkai at a time when just in the middle of the pandemic outbreak. So I also feel that this campaign was about bringing attention that, look, while you all are busy coping with the pandemic, this has happened. And the second point you have said is, of course, I mean, Tehing Patkai again. It's, I think, the largest rainforest of Assam, isn't it? With vast biodiversity. So I think this campaign definitely, again, I have to use this word, but otherwise I don't know how to explain this. But I just felt this really talked about that we got to protect it. And we have seen how this world has stopped by just one virus. And if we don't, protect our environment, then it's like we're creating breeding grounds for more viruses. I think it's taking us time that ultimately it's for us by trying to protect the world, the environment. We're actually protecting ourselves. So I think it did that as well. Did it also talk about the EIA Act, the draft, which I think, is it called
Yeah,
Environmental Impact Assessment Act, right?
yeah, yeah. I,
Yeah,
I,
so
I did think we drew attention, public attention to what that
it
was,
did. Yeah.
and somehow a lot of these things, including the EIA, it those were happening, and and those acts were kind of drawn into attention or into exercise
Mm.
while these conversations were on,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
is why kind of the focus shifted to those things
Mm.
while we were still we just started about a conversation about rainforests. It
Mm.
went on to the EIA, it went on to
Yes.
Bagjan, and it went on to other things because those things happened when we started speaking. They were not preordained, or
Mm.
we hadn't thought about them. But
Yeah,
yeah, we had to speak about EIA. It went on to Bagjan and a lot of other things. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for me, especially when you started to talk about EIA, it made all the more sense because this act is supposed to be environmentally friendly, but turns out it is industry friendly because it doesn't allow public consultation for a lot of projects. And even if it does, the time allotted is so short. It's not in local language. So local people can't even get involved. They have no clue what's going on with this act. So you picking up and talking about it, and that, look, this can't just go ahead. This needs review. This needs revising. Again, I think it's a fantastic work done. Really well done on that. Now, looking at everything that you do, whether it's music and all this work that you have been involved with, um, I want to ask whether purpose drives everything that you do? And if the answer is yes, then what is your purpose or your calling right now, today? And why do you think it's so important to define it?
I think that's a good question. Actually, the artist has no purpose. I think we are born to create, and we wake up every day trying to create a new thing, trying to find. It's like finding a new land or a new space or a new conversation. That is what we need to do. But we are living in times where we cannot take our eyes off what's happening around us. And who better to amplify this than artists? You know, what the reach we manage and the reach we have. Now, therein lies the choice of what do we use it for.
Correct.
Do we just use it to speak about what we do? Or do we use it to speak about what can be done? And also, if we want to speak about what we do, can it just encompass a few better things and few different things? Can it just not be like a monofocus
Mm,
situation? So I don't think I don't think an artist should be issue driven, or that the artist has to pick up an issue and make it part of his work. I don't think so. No, I think like any other profession, the job of an artist is to find the next thought, the next song, the next poem, and find new things. We are explorers, I think, but we are not divorced from society. We are not divorced from the planet.
mm,
How how do you make music when you know the forests are being done away with? How do you do music when you know the oxygen layers are plummeting?
mm.
We don't exist in a vacuum, and art will draw its ideas from what's around, from what society is. Hence, I think we are living in times that need to be spoken about, and I think this is what has happened. So here I will speak for myself. Everybody could have a different point of view. I don't want to say this is the only point of view, but I would definitely say this is my point of view.
Of course. Yeah, no. I wanted to hear your point of view, anyways. And I feel, I think what I could hear from you is that ultimately, it's just not about music, but through music, yeah, idea is to be able to inspire, almost becomes people's voice, give them the fuel to pick up their battle as well. And clearly, I see that in your music and through all the work you have been doing. And I feel that was a big part of music. If you look at the past, there was not any movement where music was not a big part of it. Today, it has become more like a life experience, part of our life experience, in the car, in the party, at the party. But the whole idea of music has always been to use it as a tool for social reform. And I kind of think that's what you are saying.
I think
Um,
I think I think any sort of education, if it
yes.
doesn't if doesn't any education, any art or any science or any craft for that matter, if it doesn't innovate and makes the world a better place, what's the point?
Mm,
If science didn't make the wheel, what's the reason? What's the purpose behind science? You know what I mean? If science didn't, get onto computers and supercomputing, where would have medicine gone? If science was without innovation, what would it have? Science doesn't just exist in a lab, so science definitely has, what it has to do with civilization. So I think any craft, any learning, if it doesn't change people around you, if it doesn't change society, what's the point? That is a personal feeling. You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually wanted to ask you this question sometime, but I think you have raised this already. It's also education. If we talk about education, I mean, even if you look at India, numbers are big, right? So many graduates, postgraduates, engineers, doctors, all of that. But how are we translating that education to applied education that can make our lives better, societies and the world's? And I think this is what you are saying with every field. What's the point of science if it's not, is not for the betterment of everybody's life? So I think it is same for art as well. That's how I see it. Um, Something that takes prominence in your songs is surely storytelling. You have picked up difficult subjects and made songs out of it. If I talk about your song about Vishnu Rabha, Gazi Rabha, then you also went on to making songs about bringing back the glories of Kusras Bonghi. Where did this desire and how did this desire start? the desire to tell stories that are going unnoticed. I mean, you have touched upon this a little bit before, but I still want to hear, where did this whole desire start?
I think it's about knowing about people and how they bring all their education into what they're creating. You know, if I have to speak about, say, two artists that Assam is proud of, one is Vishnu Rabha
Mm,
and one is Bhupen Hazarika. So the point is, for them, art and music was a tool to help people understand things better. Rabha was good at many things. He was a polymath. He knew
mm,
languages, he knew different arts. He chose music as one of them to express, and so was Bhupen Hazarika. You know, and probably I think Bhupen Hazarika was one of the first guys from India to get a master's, a PhD in mass communication. I
right.
think that's, yeah. So he went abroad.
Mhm.
So apart from the fact that they were musicians, uh, I think what they wanted to see was a better society.
Mm,
And you see, I was reading this small book about B.R. Ambedkar, the father of the Constitution,
yeah.
and he has a very short autobiographical book. It's not
Mhm.
a complete autobiography, but it is based on experiences based in life. It's called "Waiting for a Visa." It was written in about 1936. It's like a 30-page book, or probably less. He wrote it in English, and B.R. Ambedkar, being from the Dalit community, he had access to education. He had
Right.
access to great education, and he went abroad. He studied in London. He studied in the US. Again, B.R. Ambedkar was a polymath. He was good at very many things. He knew economics, he knew history, he knew law. But he came back to a place where his education needed to make sense. You know what I mean? And that's the inspiring thing. He just didn't while away. Uh, I'm not saying that's wrong. I probably not. You can go and have a career anywhere, but there are places in the world, and there are societies where what you know can make a quantum difference.
Mm,
If And that is why all uh, the whole political stratosphere that was in India gave way for an Ambedkar to write the Indian Constitution.
mm,
He could have chosen to remain in London. He could have chosen to remain in the US and carve a very successful career.
yeah.
But he came back for India. He came back for the Dalit community, which was still going through the motions of being untouchable.
Mhm.
So it is these stories that inspire. And you can be anywhere with what you want to be. You can be anybody. But what do you choose with what you have is the most important thing. Can it help make the world a better place? Can it help uh,
Yeah.
in understanding? Can it help
Mm,
breed humanity? Can it help breed understanding between communities? I think at some point I have been moved towards these questions, and as terms of my personal work goes, I think that wholly engulfs me. I think have been completely taken up with what music can do.
mm. Well, you're doing that as well. I have picked up on these two songs, but what makes me think is, when you pick up, these are difficult subjects, these are vast subjects as well. It of course needs in-depth study, research, time, and then such a vast subject, and making 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 minute song is a challenge in itself. And then knowing that these songs may not be for everybody, but going for it anyways, that shows that that has to be driven by some kind of conviction and purpose that you have spoken about. And when you say that's where you're drawn towards what you can do with your music, but you're doing that already. Um, Something interesting that I wanted to ask, and that's my observation, anyways, is even when you sing a love song, it doesn't come across as a love song. It's not apparent, it's not obvious. Is it boring for you to say the same thing the same way that we are used to hearing, listening?
I uh, I think I think the world has had its share of love songs. You know what I mean? And there is no dearth of love songs.
Right.
I think the world can do without a Joy Barua singing love songs. And frankly speaking, I know I've not really been up, with the numbers as far as love songs and the whole romantic genre goes. I do think because there are other things that come pressing. Uh, I
Okay.
wish I sing more about those kind of things, but I guess if the jungles are burning and the forests are catching fire, some things will have to wait. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But it's also about sensibilities, isn't it? Sensibilities always drive what you want to say, how you say. So I think probably it's not about not finding it something finding boring or not wanting to, but that's not your style probably because you have got a lot more things to talk about. So get that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think I don't think it's I have to talk about, or it's like there are a lot of things I need to talk about, but I think they need talking about. The things and issues. I
Sure.
think they need talking about. Somebody has to do. I think somebody has to do the dirty job, and I think that falls on me, the responsibility.
So are we talking about the artist communities or everybody, right?
I think people in general. I think we've.
We will
I think.
enjoy.
Yeah. I think we should have more. I think the situation is such that we have to have more conversations about things that are going wrong and that are going slightly haywire. We cannot push it under the carpet anymore. This is the time. You know, like for example, you might have asked. People have asked me. This has gone on. Like, why are you skipping about the rainforest? Why didn't you speak about this issue then? Okay, the obvious answer is I wasn't born then, if you mean like 70 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, the problem has reached such a stage right now that it begs conversing, it begs a discussion, a large discussion. Probably, even if the forests were being done away 70 years or uh, before, it was not as bad. But now it's critical.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was not as bad as then, but it is absolutely critical. It's like a patient needs oxygen when it's brought into the ICU, right? But you cannot say, did he need oxygen like 20 years back? Of course, all of us need oxygen, but this is an ICU situation. This is a critical care situation. That's why you're rushing an issue into the ICU of conversations and you're pumping it up with saline and oxygen and what have you. You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
such
that
a
would be
good.
my answer. Yeah, I think that would
That's
be my
that's
answer.
that's a very good way to put it, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something else as well about your song Pori Bhangi, which is your new song, and I think it's a song for a documentary which is about an all-women musical band and their life journey. Now, I see that as starting another conversation about women empowerment and obviously gender equality, inclusion, that these topics have been discussed, analyzed, dissected to a great length, and it's all great. But in terms of the results, in terms of the progress, it's sporadic. Now, I want to ask you this because you have sung this song, and I think the documentary is also made by a man. Is it Joi Barua? So, what do you think has to be the role of a man in this movement of gender equality and women empowerment? What do you think?
I think I think if we are seeking justice, if I am, it does make me a feminist. That I'm seeking like an equal conversation for everybody and equal. But it's very tough to understand the tragedy of those who couldn't manage equality, didn't have the resources, access to resources. So when the story came to me, it was very tough for me to get into somebody else's head and into the minds of the musicians. And I only identified with the music part of it. Like growing up, if I was not allowed to do music, how would I have felt? That happened through certain portions of my life. So that is the only part where I could have identified with those women. I will never say that I can identify with the rest of it. It's very tough. It's not possible. We didn't grow up in the same societies. I grew up in a similar society in Assam, but I'm not saying I have not walked in their shoes. I have not been part of their journey. And part of it has been living hell for them. Some of them didn't get married. Some of them refused marriage. And I knew the society that was Assam then. It was so hard for us to do music. What it must have been for them. So it didn't come from a point of completely understanding what they were, but it came from a point of empathy. I have grown up, we've grown up with women in the house, a mom, a sister, cousins. So, and you see how the world also treats them at large. So it gives, at least, if nothing else, it helps you to treat them with dignity, to treat them with respect. And that is the least I could say. But it's very tough. I don't think we could get into their minds. I try to do the best I can. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think probably that's about the musical side, like you have said, you're talking about. But I actually do feel that men as an ally can be a great role model to women's success, to jobs, to employment, to full participation in decision making and all sorts. Because it's about also accepting, like you have said, that it was quite difficult to comprehend what they had gone through. It's also accepting that it exists and also truly recognizing women's potential. Because I can tell you about, I hope you don't mind if I'm talking about women empowerment, but because you have done such a fantastic project, I thought it's a great opportunity to talk about it. But a survey which came out actually in 2021, and it says that those organizations which embrace gender equality, women who are at senior level positions, they're 87% more profitable than organizations who have not embraced gender equality. So numbers are screaming, about women's potential. So I feel that when men like you and Partha Barua and many, when they join this conversation, when they participate actively through music or whichever way, I think it empowers other men and also to join and be seen as a good thing. And I think that is something so inspirational for me to see Boridhe Bhangi coming out, because like you have been talking about, all the awareness campaigns around Bagjan and around Dihing Patkai. I mean, this is also an awareness campaign in its own right?
I
Something.
think as far as Poridhi Bhangi is concerned, I think what is really essential is for people to know is the way Parthajit Barua went ahead and brought out the story. I think the real credit should go out to the maker, that he chose to do this. He could have done any other thing. He was busy with a lot of things. He's a filmmaker, but he
Absolutely.
chose to do this story because he cared. I think that I don't think Assam still has understood that. You know what I mean? But I look at a man at an artist who cares vis-a-vis an artist who just does, and there's a difference. So it's not easy being a Parthajit Barua because he cares. Caring doesn't come easy. You know what I mean?
It doesn't. It
It doesn't
doesn't.
come easy.
Yeah. No.
That sense of empathy doesn't come easy. It is
No.
very deeply ingrained faith and education that he has and that he wishes on other people, for society. I think uh, I think I will tip my hat to Partridge Borwa at this point.
Wonderful. I think that's what we are talking about today, isn't it? It's the purpose. It has to be a bigger purpose to have that empathy and going ahead with things that you don't quite care who thinks what, but you're going in for it anyways because there is a bigger purpose there. So yeah, absolutely to Parthajet Borua. Cheers to him as well. Um, you have already spoken about your inspirations, music legends like Bhupen Hazarika, Jonta Hazarika. I have also, I think, spoken about John Lennon before, Sting. Um, I want to know, and they have inspired you. I want to know how they have shaped you and your musical sensibilities. You have spoken about Bhupen Hazarika already, but I want to know a little bit more.
I think uh, I think what really I think the biggest lesson that we can learn from a Bhupen Hazarika, and I think Assam has been really, really blessed to have artists like them been born here. Not every state has a Bhupen Hazarika, not every country has a Bhupen Hazarika, but he's somebody who showed how great songs can be about society and about land, and how they can be mass anthems. How art can not just be self-serving. I think that this is the biggest lesson that we all learned, and I don't know if we've learned enough to make a difference to the society, but at least the lessons exist in our land, and that's important.
Why do you think? Have you tried thinking, why have we not learned a lesson, those lessons?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I think that it saddens me.
Mm.
You know, we have been so blessed to have such thinkers in our midst. But I think at some point, I think I would not, I would not put it at the people, but I would also put it at the media. Is whether they have been transmitting the right ideas and the right conversations that needed to flow. Whether they have borrowed from the giants of thought, or whether they have just let the past fritter away. I would think the media could have done a better job here. How can we, if I was to say, and if I was to feel that society has forgotten a figurehead, who's responsible is probably education and media.
True.
And I feel that way. But do such talents exist now? I think we have great talents across our diaspora. I'm I'm getting to read amazing books, New Age Assamese authors writing in English. I've been having conversations with them, and they are all brilliant minds. But are there conversations? Are there learnings in the public domain? No. Do people really know? People don't. Why haven't such amazing minds? Why don't we hero worship the real talent? Why don't we make them famous? Why do we choose only low-hanging fruit? And by that I mean something which is just accessible. Why don't we try to raise the game? for everybody. I think all talent should be appreciated. That is how, and probably that is what Bhupen Hazarika wanted.
Mm,
He didn't want education to stop at him. He didn't want enlightenment to stop with and at his work. He wanted more. And I think there are great flag bearers who are carrying the torch. But is the media
mm,
doing the job of bringing them into focus? I think that's where the problem is.
yeah, I think you're not wrong at all. And when if somebody has written as well, education is the only way to love and acceptance. But I also feel when you have spoken about Bhupen Hazarika, and for that matter, all these artists, I think that's what they did through music. They tried to promote love and unity. And I think Bhupen Hazarika endlessly spoke about, uniting the northeastern states. Who speaks about the way he used to? So I think they all believed in a world which is devoid of borders, and I think we are not bringing out those stories. There's still, I think world exists because there are still better, good stories are more than bad stories. But like you have said, it's the media, it's the commerce behind it, and what always you get to hear is the bad side of things, but there's so much of goodness happening. And I think it's with the artists and the talents as well. So what you have said, totally, totally relate to that. Now, at this stage of your life, what do you think is the biggest lie that the society and the people around you have told about life, about success, about happiness? What's the biggest lie you think
Biggest lie.
that the
Wow.
society sells? The
Yeah.
society tells.
I think I think it's the way society has let it's the way society has let social media dictate what achievement is. You know what I mean? So it's really unfortunate. People are dying by the thousands in metros now, and there are people who have rushed off to Maldives and Goa and posting vacation pics.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
I I really don't know. I never thought I would have to say this, but since we engaged here and this just came out, how do you do this? How what has made you do this? You've gone from a city which is where people are dying. There are people dying on the roads. There are people carrying their own oxygen cylinders into the hospitals they are walking in because they cannot bring, their lungs are collapsing. There's a father who's walking with his son. There are fathers and thousands of fathers who are walking in with collapsed lungs, infected lungs, and their children are carrying the oxygen cylinder. They're heavy cylinders. Two, three people are carrying one cylinder, the father's on a cart. And you've gone from that city. You're vacationing somewhere. It's fine. People can go anywhere. You might choose to escape this, and that's fine. How are you posting pictures? Is that your idea of living? Is that what we are born for?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really don't know. I think
Yeah, that's
I think
unbelievable, I suppose.
and this
Absolutely. Yeah.
unbelievable. This is unbelievable. People were doing it last year also, by the way. When it was the heights of the pandemic, people from the northeast, people from they went to South Asia, they went to Bangkok, they went Maldives, everywhere, and they had photos. How do you do this? Especially in
Yeah.
the heat, or especially when you're going through the crisis at this moment. How do you do this?
This is what I feel that, if trauma has entered our lives in some way or the other, and if it hasn't changed us, then all that loss, people's lives, people's livelihood, all of that is such a missed opportunity. It's a wasted opportunity. What has happened through COVID, if we have not learned, and how we return after once we get back, if we haven't learned, I think it's just a wasted opportunity. And it is so sorry to hear what you have been saying. It is beyond, I think, belief. But because of time, I think we'll have to wrap. I want to know, is there any new stuff that you're working on that you can share?
I'm working on uh, movie music here in Bollywood, and
Right.
also I'm about to bring out a tale on. I bring out a story about extremism in Assam and what it did
Mm.
to a certain section of people. That's what I'm working on right now,
Wow.
and I think it'll hit the light of day very soon.
Okay. So it should be somewhere in 2, 3 months' time, or is it hard to say?
I think it would have been earlier if this is. I think we are looking at 2 3 months, and we're looking at 2 3 months. Yeah, it could be earlier. I
Okay.
hope we find a better time. It's a little tough for people. I know I don't want to be, especially if it's my decision. I don't want to press people with new music right now. Not now.
Of course. Of
If it's
course.
if the decision rests on me, that is.
Mm. Okay, good luck
Yeah.
with that. And yeah, really looking forward to that. Now, before we end, I'd like to end with our final five, which are like quick questions, quick answers. Are you up for it? Is it
Well, surely.
okay? Okay, okay, good. So, so my first question would be, what have you learned about love through life experiences? So I think, in short, your idea of love.
I think true love. I think is the idea of God.
Okay. My next question would be, if you are to describe yourself in 3, 4 words, what would those words be?
Let me be.
Like that. Um, what's the best advice you have received?
I think that's what my dad told me. He says, do it for the audience, but don't let go of the learning.
Fantastic. So, lifelong learner. Um, my next question would be, if you are to make one rule for the world, what would that rule be?
Learn to accept.
And my final question, one mantra that you live by.
I try to wake up in the every morning and say thank you.
Grateful and gratitude. All right. Listen, we'll have to end here. But is there anything that I haven't asked and you would like to share?
I think we can keep it for the next time we talk.
Okay. Okay. All right. But but yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic having you here. I had a great time talking, and you also brought up some really important topics, I suppose, things to think. So thank you for that. And I feel that your music, your songs define the depth of your music, but it also defines you and your values. And I think we got to see a bit of a reflection of that today. So thank you. Best wishes for everything, and stay safe, stay well, and goodbye for now.
Thank you, and thank you really for having me over. And was a great conversation. We did manage to touch a lot of things, but a lot of things remain. But thank you for letting me express the way I wanted to.
No, that's great. I just felt that because of time, probably I had more questions, but like you said, there would be a part two, hopefully, at some point when we'll get to speak more. But no, thank you for that. And I'd like to thank everybody who is watching the show as well. And I do hope that they have had, you all had a joyful time listening to Joy as much as I did. Sending you best wishes for a healthy and a happy life. And stay safe, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye. Goodbye, Joe.
Thank you, Rim.
Yeah. Bye.